Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 picks up where the first one left off. Sort of. You see, this movie exists in that twilight zone between being a sequel and a bit of a reboot. It's an undeniable bloated mess, but it's also an improvement over the first one in pretty much every way. The plot in Blood and Honey 2 is a lot bigger and way less focused than its predecessor, though, so let's try to make sense of it here. After the events of Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey, now known as the 100-Acre Massacre, the town of Ashdown is on edge and full of rumors about that tragic night and its sole survivor, Christopher Robin. Despite the fact that Christopher has been found innocent, half the town doesn't seem to believe his claims that monsters living in the woods are the ones responsible for the killings, and things are only exacerbated after the release of Blood and Honey, the movie adaptation of the 100-Acre Massacre. Which is to say that in Blood and Honey 2, the first Blood and Honey is actually just the film adaptation of the second movie's previous events and not necessarily the actual events that took place before them. Convoluted, but admittedly not the worst way of explaining all the changes they've implemented between 1 and 2, like Christopher Robin being played by a completely different actor, why Pooh and his friends' backstories have been retconned to genetic experimentation, or the alterations to Pooh and Piglet's character designs. So yeah, where the first movie was just a basic slasher flick that felt like it had shoehorned Winnie-the-Pooh into it last minute, this movie makes an actual effort at trying to be a Winnie-the-Pooh horror movie. It's schlock, but it's honest, hard-working schlock.
I guess.
Enter the real Christopher Robin, played by Scott Chambers, undergoing hypnotherapy to deal with his Pooh-related trauma, which is mysteriously linked somehow to the childhood disappearance of his twin brother Billy. Kinda sounds like Five Nights at Freddy's, right?
Okay, good joke.
Anyway, we see that Christopher's struggling professionally as the controversy that surrounds him makes it hard to hold down a job, while socially he's become a pariah, ostracized by everyone in town except his mom, dad, sister Ella, and childhood friends Lexi and Finn. Meanwhile, Pooh and Piglet are struggling to survive in the 100-Acre Woods and have gone into hiding from the manhunt that's after them since Christopher Robin escaped and exposed their existence to the public. This forces Pooh and Piglet to reunite with Tigger and this movie's true star, Al, a Jeepers Creepers wannabe who straight up steals the show with the sheer number of bird-themed kills this goofy motherfucker gets while flying around with a special effect that borderlines on being unnecessarily bad. Reunited, the four old friends decide they must band together to kill Christopher Robin and the entire town of Ashdown before they're hunted down. So Pooh and friends set out on a massacre, beginning with a group of camping co-eds in what's arguably the best murder scene this whole thing has to offer, with one girl being set on fire while Pooh proceeds to break the arms and legs of another girl bone by bone. Unfortunately, those are two of the more creative kills in the movie. Word of the killings reaches Ashdown, and with their similarities to the 100-Acre Massacre, Christopher finds himself at the top of the public shit list.
Wasn't me.
We're introduced to Christopher Robin's girlfriend, Lexi, as well as his mom, dad, and little sister Ella, who prefers to be called Bunny, and she introduces two concepts into this movie. One, that psychosis runs deep in the Robin family, as we're introduced to Ella while she mutilates a teddy bear. Completely normal. And two, Ella, or Bunny, demonstrates that it's not uncommon for Robin children to adopt an animal alter ego.
Why?
Meanwhile, back in the 100-Acre Woods, Pooh and friends are pursued by three hunters, one of which, apparently, was dating one of the camping co-eds who got killed in the previous scene. Anyway, two of the hunters are killed, but not before blowing off Piglet's head, while the third hunter is left purposefully alive and mutilated. A message to Christopher Robin. Pooh confronts the surviving hunter at the hospital where he works, confirming Pooh's out for revenge, but losing his job. The massacre continues from the 100-Acre Woods into Ashdown, where Pooh, Al, and Tigger commit a variety of campy and kinda random murders, targeting both Christopher Robin's childhood friends and various other townspeople, of which the highlights include Al melting off Finn's face with vomit as if it were xenomorph blood, and Tigger taking out a group of cops that stumble upon the treehouse hideout. At the same time, Christopher Robin desperately continues his hypnotherapy in the hopes of uncovering the lost details around his missing brother Billy. It's revealed that Pooh was always violent and that Christopher Robin actually manipulated the traumatic moments he couldn't process with his kid mind into false memories. But it's within those repressed memories that Christopher is able to recall the face of the man who abducted his brother, the janitor from the hospital, Cavendish. So Christopher seeks out Cavendish, who delivers a lengthy exposition. We're talking like 5 to 8 minutes here, people.
Wrap it up.
So Cavendish explains the mad scientist, Dr. Gallup, who paid him to kidnap and collect kids for genetic experiments, how Gallup was splicing their genes with animals and testing the results. He even admits to taking Christopher's twin brother, who's revealed to be Pooh Bear himself, and how eventually Dr. Gallup tried to destroy Pooh along with the other genetic abominations by killing and burying them in the woods, but this led Cavendish to murder Dr. Gallup after he found out, revealing that Pooh and the others crawled out of the ground that they were buried in, implying they're undead or immortal or some shit like that. And then Cavendish blows his brains out. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone the Frankenstein's monster route with Blood and Honey 2 here.
Okay. You had me going there for the first part. The second half kind of threw me.
While this massive exposition dump is happening, Pooh goes after Lexi and the kid she's hired to babysit, aptly named Freddy, but they escape to the police. So Pooh decides to rip off the arm of the cop that's sent into the house to look for him, escapes, and heads over to the Robin house, where he kills Mama Robin by shoving a bunch of knives into her face. Actually, it's the other way around. He shoves her face into a bunch of knives, but then Papa Robin gets killed off screen, leaving little Ella all alone with Pooh. The movie culminates at the biggest rave that Ashdown's ever seen, as an unleashed Tigger commits literal murder on the dance floor, with Pooh taking out anyone trying to escape.
If you think you're getting away, I will prove you wrong.
Lexi meets up with Christopher, and the two of them head to the rave to warn everyone, only to find them all dead. They take on Tigger, shoot and kill him, seemingly, and then head for the woods to find Ella and Pooh. They find Pooh, but no Ella, and just as Pooh's about to take out Lexi, Christopher diverts his attention by calling Pooh his true name, Billy. An enraged Pooh then relentlessly chases Christopher with a flaming chainsaw until they come across the burial grounds that a young Pooh and friends crawled out of all those years ago. Stunned by the emergence of his own repressed childhood memories, Christopher Robin gets the opportunity to drive an axe through Pooh's head, with the bear uttering one final, "Oh, bother." And then Ella's revealed to be perfectly fine, except for the fact that her parents got murdered and she's an orphan now. She'll be fine, though.
My mom and dad are dead. No! No!
Credits roll, and we get one final scene that reveals Al has collected the bodies of Pooh, Piglet, and Tigger and is regrowing their heads for a sequel. And that's Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, people, the sequel/reboot to arguably the worst movie that came out last year. Don't get me wrong, this is by no means a good movie, but it is an absolute improvement over the first one, for the most part. The costumes, the acting, the overall plot with the lore expansion and the world building that it manages to do, all much better than the previous installment. And it's already not the worst movie that came out this year.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
But it's still worth pointing out that if you need a 5-minute long exposition dump from an old man towards the end of your movie in order to explain everything that's going on in that movie, then you've probably done a bad job of writing your movie. Shit, man. They did a fine job of seeding those plot twists into the story. They hinted that Christopher had a long-lost brother from a young age. They put scattered clues about weird genetic experiments that were being done to children somewhere in town. I mean, we get it. Billy went missing. Pooh showed up after. Billy is Pooh. Show, don't tell.
Get the fuck out of here!
Some other questionable choices in this movie include Tigger's overall design. He's basically just skinny Pooh with a tail, but what I really want to focus on here is his lack of bounce. This motherfucker doesn't even hop once during this movie. In fact, I'm suspicious Frake-Waterfield thinks Tigger is a cheetah. Either that or he has tigers and cheetahs generally confused, because Tigger is zooming around Blood and Honey 2 with Flash-like super speed, but no bounce.
You blew it!
Also, having Pooh and friends talk as much as they did in general was probably not the best idea. Call me old-fashioned, but I like a silent killer. Every line uttered by these guys is comedic, whether it's intentional or not.
I meant to do that.
What isn't questionable is that the dialogue is still genuinely shit, even if it is being delivered by marginally more talented actors who at the very least feel like they could be on a CW show or something. The last movie felt like it was populated by a low-budget porno cast. Not that I'd know anything about those. There's also an unquestionable amount of similarities between Blood and Honey 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's. Beloved childhood animal-based characters committing murder, the main protagonist revisiting repressed memories to deal with trauma, the kidnapped sibling, the blonde female love interest, the strange little sister character. I'm just saying, man.
They're the same picture.
The biggest problem Blood and Honey 2 suffers from, though, is pacing. This movie is long, drawn-out character development scenes that only sometimes amount to something significant, or exposition dumps heavy in backstory, punctuated with mostly short, hectic murder scenes that cram so much killing into such a small window of time that it all just kind of blends together into a big red blur without leaving a lasting impression. When it comes to the murders in Blood and Honey 2, oftentimes it's too much too fast. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of deaths here, and some of them are pretty creative. But overall, Blood and Honey 2 is your classic example of how more doesn't always equate to better. Bitch. Yeah, Blood and Honey 2 racks up the body count without shying away from the gore, but most of the carnage is cut away from quickly in order to highlight the next murder, and the next one, and the one after that. It's horror whiplash, especially the Tigger scenes. The result being that you don't really get all that many impactful deaths. Blood and Honey 2 is more like a literal slaughterhouse in the worst possible way. This movie has a get it done and turn it out attitude when it comes to the kills. Really, there's maybe only about 5 kills in this movie that stand out in my mind. Let's see, there's the girl who got set on fire, the girl with the broken bones, shoving the mom's face into the knives is pretty cool, that guy who got puked on by Al, and the girl who fell through the hole in the floor after Tigger poked her eyes out. But for a movie that promises to be jam-packed full of kills, well, actually it was. There's just not that many quality kills among the massive quantity of kills. I mean, shit, man. Just take a look for yourself at the credits and appreciate the sheer number of raver characters they cast in this movie just to up the kill count. But at the end of the day, the thing is, Blood and Honey 2 isn't taking itself completely seriously, so even if it could stand to lean into the jokes a little harder, there's still a lot of fun being had by the people making it. Clearly. So if you like B or maybe more like C or D list horror movies, this is one you definitely don't want to miss. Now, what'll really be interesting to see is whether or not they're able to keep a level-headed sense of cynicism as the Poohniverse evolves and grows bigger, or if it'll simply collapse into its own asshole under the pressure of success. Only time will tell, but I for one am looking forward to Bambi Reckoning. Please tell me that this is a Rambo-style Bambi movie.
You ever shot a deer?
No. Have you?
Okay, that's definitely enough for now.